He's a former New York City Assemblyman, and a founder of Americans Against Anti-Semitism. Dov Hikind, welcome to the Liberty Hour.
Thank you so much. Delighted to be with you.
I was going to text you, but I couldn't find your cell phone. But I'm glad you're here. And I wanted to start with even though you and I had already talked before, you had that appearance on Tucker, so I wanted to start there. You were talking about Biden's anti-Semitic problem, right? And so,
absolutely. There's unfortunately, and I'm very, very, it's sad for me to say this, but it's the reality. The Democratic Party today's Democratic Party, unfortunately, has a double standard. Hypocrisy is the name of the game. They talk, whether it's Biden, other people in the Democratic Party, they talk the talk, about unifying the country and about standing up against hate and bigotry and all that. But when it comes to anti-Semitism, it's a whole different standard. It doesn't really count whether it's Linda Saussure, who's a outright anti-Semite, a person who supports violence, a person who supports terrorists, who was part of the Democratic Convention. The farce of it is unbelievable. Linda Saussure, at first a spokesman for the Biden campaign, meaning a spokesman for Biden, outright called her an anti-Semite. Then 3 days later, they fell over each other, apologizing, and we never really got the picture. Reporters don't ask questions, real questions of the Biden campaign. They just don't. They throw softballs, not hardballs. And then you have the situation, with Blake Sr., with a record of hate that is beyond comprehension. Again, I watched Blake Sr., talk about, get on television. I thought he was a civil rights leader, to be honest with you. And then when you look at the things that he advocates and the things that he says, the most vicious, vile anti-Semitic tweets, not just anti-Semitic, but against Christians, against white people. And we're not even talking about, that happened 10 years ago. That happened 5 years ago or 20 years ago. He's a different person today. No, this is recent. This is now. This is what this guy is all about. And for Biden to pretend that none of that is there and not in any way to address it. Biden can express his feelings about what happened to his son and so on, even though we're all waiting for the conclusion of the investigation. But this guy is a racist. This guy is an anti-Semite. Right. So, again, I'm just talking about the double standard in the Democratic Party. Vice President Biden, seems like a sweet, nice guy, I'm not looking for a grandfather, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a leader.
We'll finish that on the other side, and I think it's even bigger than you think. We'll be back with Dov Hikind on the Liberty Hour at AM 560, The Answer.
You're listening to the Liberty Hour with Sean Thompson. Get on the line with Sean by calling 312-642-5600.
Welcome back to the Liberty Hour. Charles Luff here. We are talking with Dov Hikind, former New York City Assemblyman and founder of Americans Against Anti-Semitism. And before the break, we were talking about Biden's anti-Semitic problem and talking about Jacob Blake's father sounding like Jesse Jackson from the 1980s. But I want to ask you this. Wouldn't you say that Biden's problem or the Democrats' problem is larger than just, Linda and the others and Omar and all of that? It seems like the left, you said they have a hypocrisy problem, but it seems like the anti-Semitic views in the country are starting to come more and more from the left. If you look at the college campuses and the marches, and they used to talk, I don't know if they still do now, you follow this more than me, but I know 3 or 4 years ago, they were all talking about the BDS movement. Now it's just, this big push and this on the college campuses to, embrace Palestine and say everything that Israel does is wrong. And all that seems to be coming from the left. And mind you, you're in New York. I'm newly in New York. And when I first moved here, I noticed that, man, New York is like 92% Democrat. And there's just this rash of attacks on Jews and no one's saying anything.
Well, you are right on target with everything you said. The statistics for anti-Semitism in New York during the past year, last 14 months, was unprecedented. We have never, ever had anything like it. I represented a bunch of communities for 36 years in the New York State Assembly. I was out there to fight anti-Semitism, but never saw anything like I saw the last 14 months. And almost all of this hate, all of these violent attacks upon the Jewish community, the drawing of swastikas, the intimidating of people in different communities, all of it came from one single community. It came from the minority community. It came from, within
Don't say minority. Say it. Say it.
I did say it all the time. In fact, how do I know where it came from? Because there were so many videos. Thank God we live in a period where there are videos. We saw the videos of the people walking the streets and just assaulting Jews because they were Jews. They were not taking anything from them.
Nope.
They were not stealing anything. All they wanted to do was beat up on a Jew. And this was happening on a daily basis and culminated in what happened in Jersey City, where you had the attack upon Jews there and others who were murdered, actually. And then you had the stabbing shortly thereafter in Muncie, New York, and one of those people actually died afterwards. So things were out of control. And we saw the perpetrators in almost all of these cases.
Right on
and
video.
It so happens they came from the black community. That is just a fact. I mean, and hardly anyone. I mean, Bill de Blasio, the governor of the state of New York, I mean, they were missing in action. It wasn't politically correct to address it.
So let me ask you this. They don't say anything, but it's worse than that. This is part of the magic that the Democrats are able to pull off. That's bad enough, without a doubt. I'm not condoning it. But not only do they say nothing, even the Jewish community, everybody on the left finds a way to just say, it is all Trump. And then the rest of us just say, yeah, sounds about right. It must be Trump. I mean, it's fascinating that they're able to convince people. You can see the people on the video. Unless we're going to assume that 90% of the black community is voting for Trump, who buys that? But they find a way to do that.
Yeah. In fact, what you're saying is exactly what happened. After the attacks that I mentioned, it was de Blasio and Cuomo who blamed the president. I mean, what the president had to do with the individuals who made these attacks upon the Jewish community. I, in fact, went on every single TV show to defend the president. And I mean, it was just outrageous. Look, Trump gets blamed for everything, and the Democrats, they're innocent, like the white snow. They're fine, and it is such hypocrisy. It is such a lie. And I would just tell people out there, and I plan to do this from now till the election. I'm just asking people, wake up and take a look. This is serious business. Imagine Biden not speaking out now. What will he do when he's president, for God's sake?
With no opponent, correct.
Do you know who's running the Democratic Party? A guy by the name of Bernie Sanders, Tlaib, Omar, and the radical left. They're the ones waiting, literally, I can see them with my eyes, just waiting for Biden to win. We hope to God that doesn't happen. They're just waiting for that moment, and they take over. No question about it. Anyone who thinks differently is just not living in the real world.
And let me interrupt you right there. I want you to
It's just a sad reality what's going on in this country, for God's sake.
And I want you to leave enough time for you to tell us about your organization and the documentary I saw on the website. But first, I want to say this. It's important you mentioned Bernie Sanders. Because as a black guy and a Jewish guy here, it's important that people understand. Because a lot of people who aren't in those categories, your regular white folks will look and say, well, I don't get it. Why do the Jews do this? Why do blacks do this? Blacks tend to be, church-going religious people. What happened? Because for the people, blacks on the left and Jews on the left, they are leftists first, then they're Christians and Jews, then they're this and that. Because they're leftists. So Bernie can be Jewish and still be like, I love Linda. I love Omar. Because I'm a leftist first. I'm a Marxist first. That's how powerful that trend is. If I'm a leftist first, then I go to church. And people need to understand that.
Boy, again, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying because you are so on target that unfortunately to a lot of people in the Jewish community on the left, Israel is not the number one and number two issue, sadly. Bernie Sanders talks about being a proud Jew, but he embraces anti-Semites. He embraces people who embrace terrorists. Linda Saussure has embraced terrorists. It's there. It's clear. There's no debate about that. And they get away with it, and they are part of the Democratic Party, and I just hope and pray. Look, I can understand there are people who, they have a problem with not the policies of our president, but maybe some of the things that he tweets and some of the things that he says. I get it. But I need to warn people, don't make the mistake of not recognizing that, God forbid, if Trump is not reelected, I'm really concerned about the future of this country. I really mean that. Not that Trump is perfect. I'm not a Trumpy. I want to point that out. But there is no choice. Biden is not running the show. Trust me, he is not running the show.
It's the extremists.
Look what's going on in our cities, in democratic cities. People's lives are being destroyed. Their business is being burned down. People who have worked their entire life to have a business, and they struggle.
We got 1 minute here, Dov. We're short on time. Tell us about your organization and the documentary.
Well, it's Americans Against Anti-Semitism. People can go on the website, support us. Look, we're out there to speak out, to stand up, to fight, to not be afraid, and because as I have told people, and I told this to Tucker in 1944, my mother, her mother, other members of the family, they were living in a beautiful community. They got along with everybody, and one day suddenly they were all taken to Auschwitz. My mother was taken to Auschwitz. My grandparents were murdered the day they arrived in Auschwitz, along with nephews and nieces. And why did this happen? Where did it come from? It came from hate. It came from hate of the Jewish people.
I hear the music. We're coming up to the break. I appreciate it. That is a cautionary tale. Dov Hikind, thank you for joining me on the Liberty Hour. Back in a moment.